Good afternoon. Tom Ginn hosting G Force. G is for gratitude. And when we understand the power of gratitude, it changes everything. It gives us different perspective. It changes a negativity into positivity. It gives you hope. It's a spiritual principle. And when we incorporate it in our lives, we get a better perspective of how to live a more fulfilling life. So, G Force, I am so grateful for today in many ways, but I'm also really grateful for the guest I'm having in today. And I'm really excited. I've interacted with him a couple times in one of the organizations I'm associated with. And in knowing a little bit about his background and his story, folks, you're going to be in for a treat. This is what I would call a giant of a man in spirit and in character and experience in life. So I look forward to having Doug Wing share his story. And I'm going to bring Doug in right now. Well, Doug stepped away. So I'm going to put this up. Yeah, Doug, you had to step away there for your plumbers, right? But I'll get back to you here in a moment. I believe today, I just want to start with this, building on a legacy. And this is a quote from his father. If you concentrate on building a business and not the man, you will not achieve. But if you concentrate on building the man, you'll achieve both. And this is sort of one of the principles that Doug will be sharing a little bit today about. So, Doug, are you ready? And here is Doug Wing. Doug, it's an honor to have you on today. And today it's all about you and your story. And our whole mission here with G Force is to provide value to those to improve their lives in business, their personal, whatever the case. So I'm really honored to have you on. So, Doug, I'm going to turn it over to you. Just tell a little bit about yourself. Where do you live now? Where are you from? And I've got some questions I'm going to ask you as well, but I'm going to let you roll, and it's all yours, my friend.
Oh, thank you, Tom. I'm honored to be on your show. I know I've been looking forward to this for quite some time, and I do appreciate this this time that we have together. So I was born in Germany, and my father was in the military. My mother was from Germany, and they met over there, and I was born over there. And then shortly after that, we moved back to Utah, where my father grew up in Springville, Utah, which is about 45 minutes south of Salt Lake City. And that's where I grew up for the most part. And it was a great place to grow up. But yeah, that's just a little bit about, where I was born and where I grew up.
Okay. With regards to, to share a little bit about, you grew up in Utah predominantly, right? I know you did a lot of mission work around your faith. And
Yeah.
I always like to ask that because knowing your faith and that background and the mission work you do, what would be your greatest experience from that? What'd you learn from your faith and your mission work? Because I think that's important for people to understand as well.
No, that's a great question. Of course, I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and many people have probably seen young men, mostly young men, probably with white shirts and ties walking around their neighborhoods. A lot of people probably wondered who they were. They've got little name tags on, and I did that for 2 years, and I actually served in the Midwest it was called the South Dakota Rapid City Mission when I was 19. Now you don't get to choose where you go. And so I was in the Dakotas. Our mission had all of North and South Dakota, portions of Minnesota, Wyoming, Iowa, and Nebraska. And I think one of the greatest things a few things I learned from that mission was that there are many, many good people throughout the world of all kinds of different faiths who are very good, God-fearing people, and that most people are good. They really are good. And I also learned a lot about myself and the things that I learned by going door to door and talking to people about religion and things like of that nature. I really learned a lot about people, and that really helped me in my business career, and especially as I was in sales and sales training and leadership and those types of things. I was shy as a young man, and that really helped me get over my shyness when you have to knock on doors and talk to people about your faith and about their faith and different things like that.
Yeah. Wow. Knowing what people have to go through. I've known many missionaries and the stories they've shared, and what a character builder, a strength builder, confidence builder, because you're dealing with a lot of unknowns, right? Fear, I'm sure, in the beginning. So
Yeah, I mean, a lot of us had never been away from home much, and so we were kind of sheltered a little bit in Utah, and then you get out into the world, and it's a little bit fearful at first, but great experience. Really had a lot to learn and grew a lot, and still to this day, I have dear friends that we're still friends and mission companions, because you're 2 by 2, and some of my companions are some of my best friends even to this day.
yeah, and I'm sure that just builds a lot of resources that you tapped into to help you through business and in life in general. So yeah, I know your father is the creator of Little Giant Ladder, and I
Mm-hmm.
know he is the driving force behind that. And very significant company, I guess, worldwide as far as ladders. I don't know a whole lot about ladders, but I know you make a good ladder because I've been on your ladders. I was in home improvement for years, and I've been on different contractors' ladders. But one of the best ladders I ever stepped on and secured was a Little Giant ladder. So yeah, just from experience, I wasn't a tradesman, but every once in a while I'd have to get up on a roof and do an inspection
Mm-hmm.
uh, to give a bid on a roof or something. So I really appreciate having a quality product. But share a little bit about your experience. Your dad founded the company, and today he is on no longer with us. But what was your role growing up with the company? What type of influence and did your dad leave you that you're carrying forward? Just share with the audience on that.
Sure. Yeah, my dad was a very unique man. He was kind of an eccentric person. He believed in quality, neatness, doing the job right, hard work, great attitude, and taking care of customers and his employees. And so I had a wonderful mentor in my dad. He was not an easy man to work for. He did expect a lot of us, and so I was about 10 years old when I started working with my father and for my father. My brother was about 12, and he was very, very wise, very smart. He had us, of course, we were young, and so he had us emptying garbages and cleaning restrooms and sweeping up floors and cleaning the shop and those types of things. And then as we got older, he would, have us do other things in the company, learn other positions, moved us up slowly, and made sure that we learned every facet and aspect of the business, so that when we were older and when he was gone, we had an appreciation. Not only did we know the business, but we also had an appreciation, I think, for those who were doing those menial jobs and tasks, and really appreciated and valued our employees, which was really, he always said that, the most important thing in a company is not your buildings or your patents or your products. It's really the people. And if you don't have good people and honest people with good attitudes and hardworking, skills and things like that, then, you wouldn't be successful. But if you had good people and you treated those people well, that you would be a success, as you mentioned in the beginning. And so Great father, a father who did not take no for an answer, was not a quitter, and had an amazing attitude and just never gave up. I always tell people that there were times when we were kind of in dire straits in the business. You have your ups and downs, and you have your hard times. And there was only one person that I never saw afraid, or he never showed it, and always said, "We're going to make it through this." And that was my father, Hal Wing, and we always did. But what a great example of just integrity, honesty, hard work, great attitude, and he was just always doing the right thing. And he always used to say, the harder he worked, the luckier he got. And so just a great mentor, and a wonderful career, 45 plus years at the same company, working, in one place my entire career, and loved every minute of it.
Wonderful. Those are, those are great attributes to be brought up with. Many times you're growing up with them, you're saying, why am I going through this? But looking back, it builds your character. It's carrying you where you're going today, and that type of thing. I remember one interview that you had. I'd like you to share with us. You and your buddies got a little bit of mischievous in the plant. Do you know what story I'm talking about there?
Oh, about the hide and seek story?
Yeah, I think that is something else. If you don't mind sharing it, just
sure. Yeah, we had our manufacturing facility was over in Provo, and I had a key because I worked after schools and then on weekends and things. And one of the funnest things we like to do, and I don't know that my dad ever knew about it, but we had this big, huge facility where where we produced the ladders, and it was warehouse and manufacturing space. And you would go in there, I'd go in there with 4, 5, 6 friends, and you could turn the lights off and it would be pitch black in there. And this is a time when we didn't have flashlights on us, or we didn't have cell phones, but we would just play hide and seek in there. And of course I knew where all the good spots were because I worked there. And one of my buddies, he climbed up on a pile of ladders, and he slipped and fell off of it. And they were sharp. They were the outer ladders that hadn't been sanded. They'd been cut. And anyway, he fell and cut his arm, and he's screaming in the dark, I'm bleeding. So that day, our hide and seek game ended a little early, and we had to clean up the mess and take him to get stitches. But
so how did your dad react to that? Or did he?
He never found out about it.
He didn't find out about it?
Yeah.
Okay.
And maybe he knew about it, but I don't think so.
The reason I brought that up, I just, many times, we're kids, we do mischievous things. And in school, did you play sports or anything?
No, I always liked to play basketball, but growing up, when I was about, I would say about 10, 11, 12 years old, my dad started riding and racing dirt bikes. And so my brother and I started doing that. And so that was really the sport that we did for, I still ride, and I'm in my 50s. And my dad rode until he passed away. He was 72, and he was still riding dirt bikes, which is unheard of. And he was still very competitive. And so that's really the sport that we did growing up. And we would race competitively on the weekends, and do motocross, and also a little bit of desert racing, which were about the 80 to 100 mile ones. Those things about killed you. You had to be in good shape for those. And so we would ride a lot, and then, to practice. And then my dad rode a big race in Las Vegas one year. It was called the Las Vegas 400. Him and my brother raced it in a team race, and they finished in 3rd place, it was a pretty big race. And it was kind of neat that they finished in the top 3 that year.
Yeah. The reason I asked that, because, knowing that you rode motorcycles and that type of thing, and, you mentioned motocross and all that. I tell you what, I rode a little bit in my life, but not to that type of extent. But, people that do that is a physically athletic endeavor. There's a lot of athletic I had an
Yeah.
opportunity years ago. I'm going to date myself. Husqvarna, you know who they are,
Oh
right?
yeah.
They're the
Yeah.
biggest. They used to be the biggest team. Husqvarna team was the biggest in the motocross industry, and I had an opportunity to have the Husqvarna motorcycle motocross team come to our house when they were introducing motocross to the United States, and it was in California. They did an event at Sears Point, but
Oh yeah.
I started talking to them, and it's amazing how they trained to do
Hmm.
those events. So I kudos to you that a lot of times people, motocross or riding motorcycles is not physical. It's a sport that you got to be in shape for. So I just, sorry to interjected there.
No, you're right. I mean, I think they said that the top two conditioned athletes in the world are motocross racers and soccer players, is what I've heard.
Yeah, that's what they were sharing. How much training they do to be able to do that type of sport. So,
Hmm.
and you still ride today, but not competitively, or just get out and just bump around out there.
Yeah, the last time I raced, I have a bunch of vintage motorcycles like from the 70s and 80s, and every year they have a big race up in Boise, Idaho, that where they all, a bunch of old guys like me will race these vintage bikes. And the last time I raced up in Boise, I raced a 1982 125 Suzuki that a guy restored for me, and it was a hoot. It was just a lot of fun, and that was it would have been 2019, I think. Yeah, 2019. It was pretty fun.
Okay. So often to a little bit about you, your hobbies, some of those type of things. I think is important. We talk with people that our diversity and that does build character. I'm sure to ride a motorcycle
Yeah,
around
and
that.
again, I learned a lot from my dad in that, he didn't start riding till he was older, but he was so determined and so competitive that he they my dad's friends, they introduced him to motorcycles, and they kind of made fun of him at the beginning because wasn't that good, and he was just so competitive that he's like, I'm gonna smoke these guys, and within like 3 or 4 or 5 months, he was beating them already just because of sheer sheer determination. Now he crashed a lot, but he was really competitive. I mean, in Germany when we lived there, he competed in those like ultra marathons. They're unbelievable. I mean, I can't remember how many miles they are, but they're way longer than a regular marathon. Yeah, and he was always active and doing things like that.
Okay. Um, you're out of the company now. The story. I'm not. It's not important what the story is, but now you're out on what are you doing today? Today, where are you going? What's your vision for yourself and that type of? Where are you today? You can go ahead and share.
Yeah. So, in 2020, last year, I sold my portion of the company to my brother. And then at the very end of last year, I mean, like the last few days of the year, my brother sold the rest of, his interest in the company. And so he's still there for about 5 years, but I'm completely out of the company. Um, so what I've been involved with now is I started another company with two other partners, very dear friends of mine, and we own a bunch of apartments, about 1,000 doors in apartments, a property management company, and three other companies that aren't really related to that industry, but mostly we're in real estate, in the apartment business. And so, although I'm not really actively involved in the business, I do, stay in touch with my other partners regularly. But right now, I'm working on a book, and which is called Giant Success, and it will be about my father's life, basically his starting the business, and then the ups and downs of that, the things that he went through to build this business, from him just being himself to taking it up to 400 employees and several $100 million in revenue. So along with that book, I'll also be working on a training program for companies that will feature his core principles and values that I'll be able to teach in person sometime, hopefully in the future, or via technology to business people, to sales teams, and businesses, and kind of teach them, okay, this is what Hal Wing did to not only start a successful company, but to grow it, and a lot of that will be focused on how to treat not only your employees, but also your customers as well. So those things I'm working on right now, and we'll see where the future goes from there.
Wonderful. That's it. And I believe what I've heard from you in the past is that, many times people in business that consult, I put that in the term of consulting,
Excuse me.
is a lot about processes and that. But it sounds like, and tell me if I'm correct or if I'm hearing you correctly, it's going to be more about the philosophies or the mindsets, the heart of leadership. Is that pretty much what you'll be teaching, as well as processes or systems or whatever as well?
Yes, that's correct. It'll be more of more of the culture at Little Giant, and we've got people that have been working for us and in manufacturing, which is amazing. There's people that have worked there for us, great employees that have been there for 30 to 35 years, that have literally wore themselves out for the company. And I know that a big part of that is because of the way they were treated. And, and a big part of that obviously was started by my father, and the way he treated people, and they really loved him and my mom, and they would literally climb mountains for them. And so again, that philosophy of, hey, treat people right, and then the rest will come. And so quite a bit of that will be involved in the training.
Wonderful. And you're going to bring so much value to business organizations. There's no doubt in my mind, because when you look at an organization like the company your dad built and you were part of, you don't do that by accident, right?
Exactly.
So I always believe success leaves clues, and hopefully as you roll this out, I'll be glad to make sure that we get this word out to the community of business people out there, whether they're starting or whether they have something existing that they want to build on. Mm-hmm. What are some of your other visions in life? I know you're writing the book, and what's the reason that you're writing the book? What is it, your purpose around that?
Well, I think it's twofold. One is, and I have two sisters and a brother, and before I started on the book, I talked to them and said, hey, this is what I'd like to do. I want to make sure you're okay with it. And the number one reason really is to cement, Hal Wing's legacy, and to give our family, not just us, but also, his grandkids and his future great grandkids and so forth, the future Wings as they, come down the road here. I think that in the future, a lot of the Wing family probably won't even know who Hal Wing was. And so I think to cement the legacy and to kind of use this book as just a little, something that I can leave for the Wing family, I think is number one. And then number two, obviously, is he was so successful with building people that I believe this is going to be a great book. This is going to be very valuable to, as we mentioned before, businesses, business owners, managers, and employees as well, to help them become, better people.
Yeah. Yeah. So that a great mission and vision and part of your purpose that we have out there. I know that in life, beside, the trappings and the things that we look at, we call success, the ornaments of life, where we live, the houses, the cars, and whatever. One of your passions, or one of the things you have a strong, and did your dad start Honoring Heroes Foundation, and you're carrying that on, or could you share with the audience and what that's about?
Sure. So he was not one of the founding members, but he was on the board and was a very, big part of his life. My father was in the military, and he had a real love for military people and also those that serve us in law enforcement. And Honoring Heroes is a 501(c) charity that supports mostly the Utah Highway Patrol, but we also support other agencies within Utah that where a policeman has been injured or killed in the line of duty, or they're having some kind of an issue in their family, like an illness with either them or their spouse or children. We step in and help them with some of the expenses and things that are associated with that, because the men and women in law enforcement, they're not making a lot of money. And over the last few years, as you well know, and even right now, a lot of them are kind of getting there's kind of a bad rap out there about the police and law enforcement. Now there are some who obviously they're not perfect, and there have been some things that have happened in the past. But for the most part, the men and women who serve us as police officers and law enforcement are really, really great people. And they're putting their lives on the line for us day in and day out. And so, for example, I think maybe a year or two ago, we had an officer that was killed up in northern Utah, and his family couldn't even, his widow and things couldn't even afford to pay for like his burial plot and his casket and things like that. And so in situations like that, we come in and help and take care of the family and pay for some of those things. So it's something that was real near and dear to my father, and I'm the same way. I'm so grateful that we have people to protect us and to help us when we need it. And so I'm on the board of directors for that right now. So
Okay. And I've got tickering down to here your email or way people can get a hold of to find out more about the foundation and what are the needs of the foundation. Of course, foundations to do the work they need contributors. So I'd like to know more myself personally how to support that. That was my original choice, was law enforcement, but there's a story behind that.
The biggest way that they raise money in Utah is they actually have a license plate that's an Honoring Heroes license plate, and I think it only costs like $20 or $30 a year extra to have this, to have those plates. And I have those plates on most of my vehicles. Sometimes people will come up behind you and they'll think you're a policeman, so they slow down. And because they're looking at it because it has a star on it, like a police badge. And so my brother always said that it's our get out of jail free card. I haven't had to use it, but my brother, he's kind of a speed demon, and I think he's gotten off a few times because they know he's a contributor. But yeah, those are there's. I can see if I can put a link on my website about that, or I'm not sure if we have one, or if they can just email me and I can send them the information. But it's definitely a good cause.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. So it's one of those things that we take for granted in life until we need one, right? And
as we talked about before, there's so many cities now and things that are trying to defund the police, and I'm always wondering, okay, if you defund the police, wow, and you get into an emergency, what are you going to do if nobody answers 911, or they just don't, they're understaffed and they don't have enough police officers to come and help you? I just don't think that's a good idea.
Yeah, it's we don't realize how valuable we are until we need one, right?
Sure.
Easy to judge what they go through. They go through more than we can even comprehend, the stress in that, so, and how it impacts families and individuals. It's one of the highest stress jobs a person can have. And
they don't make a lot of money. I mean, even firemen and things like that. I mean, they're out there risking their lives for all of us, and they don't they're not really compensated like they should. I mean, the same thing with school teachers. I just don't think they make enough money.
Right. Yeah. Well, Doug, thanks for making that a purpose in what you do and uh, all that, because it's not always about us in life. Many times we think the universe revolves around us, but I think that's where some of the things that you learn from your father is a giver's gain.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you had some stories about what your dad did to help some employees. Is there any one story about that giving principle that he went far beyond what most business people would do or leaders in a company would do that is extraordinary story? Do you have anything like that to share?
Well, there's this one you probably never heard of. We had an employee that is still working there, and wonderful employee, just super guy, hard worker, and he got himself in a kind of a financial pickle, and he was about ready to lose his house, and he came to our CEO and said, "Hey, is there anything you guys can do to help me?" And the next time we had a management meeting, maybe a week later, our CEO brought this situation up where this employee had made some kind of bad financial decisions, and his house was now at risk, his mortgage, and it looked like he was going to lose his house. And so we were discussing it. It would be it was me and my brother and two other members of our executive management team. And then my dad walks in and he's like, "Hey, what are you guys doing?" And he would do that. He would just come in and what's going on, And we were like, "Well, we're talking about, this employee." And so my dad sat down for a second and he's like, "Well, let's talk about him." And so my dad said, "He's really a good employee. Is there anything we can do to take care of this situation and to help him out?" And so we talked about it. This employee was on a quarterly bonus system, and he hit his bonuses every time. He would always hit his bonuses. He was great. And so what we did was we went to him and said, "All right, we're going to loan you the money." I mean, can you imagine a company loaning their employee money to get out of a financial hardship? I mean, that just doesn't happen today. And so we loaned him the money, and on the condition that he would continue to work hard to receive his quarterly bonuses, and then when he got those quarterly bonuses, he would pay us back. And so over the period of about 2 years, this employee hit his bonuses. We loaned him the money to save his house, and then he paid us back over time. And he was very happy. It was a blessing to him. And again, our company is so unique and so family-centered, and the culture is so awesome that we would even think about doing this. And I just challenge anyone to go and try this in another company. They would just tell you, "We're not a bank. We don't do this. It's your own problem." And so, again, that's one of the unique things about Little Giant, the culture and the way that it operated, that we were able to do something like this for this wonderful employee.
Wow. That tells you a lot about the heart of the culture. Your dad's, that comes from the top down, right? So to do that, and that person is still with the company, I presume, I would think.
Yeah.
Right?
He's still working there. He's actually over his department now. He's just a wonderful man, a wonderful employee. And I'm telling you what, I think even though I don't work there anymore, if I called him and I was in Utah and I was stuck somewhere, I know he would come and help me, and he would do the same for my brother or the other members of the management team. Wonderful. It was great to do this and to be able to help him out, and I'll never forget that.
That's awesome. That's awesome. We've got Robert Booker is in here. I just want to hey, Robert, thanks for leaving your messages.
Yeah, Robert's a good guy. I'm involved with him. I think he's in Grow Live as well, right? Yeah.
We're all part of the same tribe. We've all got introduced through the tribe different ways, and
Hmm.
And the reason I'm here is Mark Gassert. I know you know Mark, and you've been on his program, and I've witnessed that program as well. And we're collaborating with a new live stream starting next week called Elevate Your Profit. And I'd love to have you come back in, be a little more specific about some principles about
Sure.
business culture building, because that's going to be the thrust of that message is bringing good quality people that have a story, have uh, uh, an influence that to help give people a different perspective of about how to run a business.
Yeah, one of the things that made Little Giant was so unique was, I mean, this is okay, so this is a little thing, but every employee got their birthday off with pay, and did that cost the company a lot of money? Not really, but people really love the fact that on their birthday they got the day off with pay. And so just little things like that. Sometimes my dad would call everybody to the front in the office, and we had this big long hallway, and he had a couple of putters, golfing putters, and he'd put $100 bill down at the end of the hallway and say, whoever gets the ball closest to that gets the $100 bill. Now, sometimes this would take a half an hour, 45 minutes, and they'd turn the phones off, and people just loved it, and it was just a little thing of, I'm going to give somebody $100 bill today. And, just little things like that my father did that just made it really, really unique to work there.
Cool. Love that story. Great. We got Kerry Brown. Do you know Kerry?
I don't.
No, he says hi, Douglas. So it's thought maybe he knew you. So
I'm not sure. I'm where are you from, Kerry? We met before, but thank you very much for saying hello.
Yeah, thank you for jumping on. Share this out. So we want to help as many people as we can here, and that type of thing. So I know, I want to talk a little bit about some of the people that helped encourage you besides your own desire to write the book, but who's some people behind the scenes that sort of put the fire to your feet to make sure this thing starts happening?
Well,
it's up to you.
Sure. So are you talking about growing up, or are you talking about the things
about your book?
Okay. Yeah. So I have known Jeffrey Gitomer for a very long time. The first time I met Jeffrey was in Salt Lake City, Utah. I was attending one of his seminars, and I remember he was drinking a bunch of Red Bull, and he was just amped up. And of course, I had read some of his books and things like that. And so that was the first time I ever met Jeffrey. Gosh, that was a long time ago in Salt Lake. And then I met him another time in Vegas, and he was doing a 2-day event. And one of them was for sales people, and then the other one was for sales trainers and leaders, which I was one. So I went to both days then and met him, saw him again. And he was always so nice to me. That's one thing I really love about Jeffrey, is he was so genuine, and we developed this friendship. And then later on, after that second time, he helped me develop a training program for Little Giant, and we used his materials, his books and things like that. He was very nice to me. He had, obviously there was some trademark issues and things, but he allowed me to use his and share a lot of his programs and things. And we just developed this relationship. And then after the company, I sold the company. Jeffrey, and he's heard a lot of stories about my dad, and he's a Little Giant user, and he loves the quality. And so he told me one day, he said, what are you going to do? You're retired now, and you have all this time. And I said, I'm going to go play golf, Jeffrey, and have fun. He goes, no, you're not. And I said, what do you mean I'm not going to have, do this? And he goes, you're too young, and you have too much to share with people. And he said, I really think you should write a book. He goes, you need to share your dad's wisdom and your stories of you and your dad and the things that he did and your experiences at Little Giant. And he goes, you really have things that can bless other people's lives. And so that's how the book idea started. And I'm very grateful for Jeffrey for, not just letting me go out and play all day, because I could certainly do that. But he said, you have value. You can really help people. And I'm very grateful for him and for what he sees in me, as someone who can help other people.
Yeah, so here we go. I forgot to turn my phone off here. But anyway, there we go. I think that's important for people to know that, many times we get complacent or whatever it is behind that we're going to go off and do something. But, because it would be I think a tragedy that story doesn't have a legacy tied to it for both of your family, for yourself and your family. I think it's the most important thing that you're leaving for generation to generation. What made the Wings who they are and carry
Sure.
that through? I call it the badge, your family shield. So,
Well, yeah, and my dad did start writing a book, and then he passed away. About he was working with someone on this book, but it's amazing as I go about. And okay, so I'll give you an example. I moved from Utah to Arizona on the first Sunday that I walked into my new congregation. And in our faith, the congregations are according to where you live. They're called wards, WARDS. And so I walked into my new ward building, and after the meeting is over, the bishop comes up to me and he says, asks me my name, and I tell him my name, and he goes, "By chance, do you happen to know Hal Wing?" And here I am, in a totally strange new place, and the bishop knows who Hal Wing is, and he says to me, "When I was going to BYU, your father came and spoke to me in a business class," and he goes, "I'll never forget your dad's, his passion, is just his enthusiasm," and he goes, "I'll never forget him." And I mean, here I am, I walk into this building, and I get asked, "Do you know Hal Wing?" So I get that a lot. I mean, it's amazing how many people knew him, and we're just so impressed with him.
Yeah. Well, that's such an honor to just know that, from your dad. You saw him on a daily basis throughout your life, but how he influenced people you never saw and how he influenced it. And that's something as a personal development coach, I try to help people better understand that their unlimited potential and their magnificence and all those type of things. And I always pose this question, and is that so many people leave this earth without fulfilling their fullest potential. And I always ask this question, and do you know where the wealthiest place in the earth is?
No, but I want to hear it. I want to hear your answer is.
It's the graveyard. It's people go to the graveyard with regrets. They didn't write the book they could have written to influence the world. They didn't go after their dreams that could impact the world. They didn't go out. They didn't put the inventions they had in their mind. There's so much wealth in the graveyard, and so I always encourage people, take what you have and put it out there, because people don't believe they have value, and everybody has value.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the things Tom Ginn doesn't want to do is leave this place with regrets. I don't want to be introduced as this is the guy you could have been, right? Mm-hmm. And when I meet my maker, but I think it's important. Just the fact you're writing the book, you're bringing the wealth to life and keep it going. And wealth isn't tied always with a bank account. Wealth goes beyond that. So
yeah. Well, one of the things that I think made my dad very unique and special was that he had the ability to see somebody not as they currently were, but as to maybe I would say their potential. So he took a lot of chances on people that other companies or other people wouldn't. I mean, he hired people who had came out of prison, but he saw worth in people and what they could become, and he was non-judgmental. And I mean, for example, there was a gentleman in his ward where he lived in his church congregation, and he was, I would say, semi-retarded, and he was on disability. And my dad came to him and said, "Mike, I want you to come and work for me." And Mike said, "Well, I don't think I can work, Hal, because, I mean, he was a little slow." But my dad said, Mike, you can work, you can do something. And so Mike came to work for my dad, and all he did all day long was clean up. He just, as they would unbundle aluminum, there's papers, there's all these things, and he would clean up all day long. And I'm telling you, this guy it really helped his self-esteem and self-worth. And he worked for us for, gosh, I would say 15, 20 years, and retired, and now lives in Florida with his son, because he's, like I said, he was a little bit slow. But just to see this person grow, as an individual, and the pride he had in his work, and, just the self-worth he had, when he could have sat home and stayed on disability and had the state and the government take care of him. But like I said, my dad saw something in him and gave him an opportunity, and it worked out really well. And so there's several stories throughout, my career being there, where my dad would see something in someone and say, you know what, let's give this guy a chance and see if we can help him grow as a person here, he or she.
Yeah, that's a principle. Your dad either learned it was inherently in his heart, that he was always in presence with people, it sounds like.
Yeah. One employee that I interviewed said, he said, your dad, in all the meetings that, he had been in with my dad, he goes, I never saw your dad have a note, but yet when he spoke to the company, he always spoke from his heart, and he seemed to know exactly what we needed to hear. And he said, the one thing I'll always remember about your dad is that he made me want to be a better employee just because of him, the way he was, and the way he treated us. And so, yeah, amazing way of inspiring his employees, and through love and seeing worth in them, and just the way, he would treat. One thing that was impressive is my dad could walk into a building and he knew every person that worked there by name. He could stop and talk to them, and he knew a little something about them. And that is so impressive. It's so difficult to do, but he was a master at it, and something, for me and my brother to really work on. He was so good at that.
And thanks, Robert, for sharing. The greatest one in life is God. So we're going to be talking about that here in a moment too. So, but thanks, Robert. That's so true.
Yes, Robert. That's great.
Yeah. I think what your dad possessed, I think what you possess through that process, that just taking it molds into you. The environment we hang with, many times, that's what we become as well. So, you were blessed to have that type of influence. And your dad really, this something was taught to me, and this is all people are looking for. Whether you're a business owner or leader, you're working with a spouse or in a relationship, what people are looking for is, do you see me? Do you hear me? And do you care?
Yeah. Yeah.
As simple as that. Those three principles, because that's Tom Ginn's need. That is your need. That's the people that it's in this audience. Robert, do you see me? Do you hear me? Do you care? And if we can deliver that, that's a culture. I think that's probably what your dad demonstrated based on what I'm hearing, those three basic principles.
Yeah. Another quick story. It'll just take a second, but my dad had this big ranch, and he had a lot of alfalfa that he raised. And so he had this gentleman that worked not only at Little Giant, but he also worked on my dad's ranch, in the season. And they're coming back. He's coming back from the ranch. He's got a great big fifth wheel trailer full of hay. He's got the truck full of hay. And this is in the summer when it's real hot. And somehow the trailer caught on fire, and it was hot. And, hay can be really combustible. And so he jumps out of the truck, but he has no way of putting out the fire. This fire consumes the trailer, jumps over to the truck, consumes the hay in the truck, and the truck explodes. And this guy's got his cell phone, and he's in tears. This employee of ours, he calls up my dad, and he's in tears, and he says, Hal, it's the trailer caught on fire, the truck caught on fire, and the hay's lost, everything's gone. And my dad says to him, his name was Darius. And my dad says to him, Darius, are you okay? And he said, yeah, I'm okay. And he goes, that's all that matters. We can get more hay and we can get another truck and trailer. And so here's this employee, he's just crying his eyes out. He feels so bad. And my dad just reassures him and says, that stuff doesn't mean anything. You're the most important thing here, Darius, and you're safe.
Absolutely. Great. Another great story. So the essence of the legacy that your dad has passed down from the company to the employees through you, and you're just sharing that out there to influence other people, and that's a gift for everybody. Just want to let you know.
Yeah. Yep. Great man. And my mom was a great lady too. She was from Germany, and she was so, one thing I learned from my mom is that she was so humble, and my parents were successful, and my mom was a penny pincher even when things were good. And when my dad was gone, she always would ask me if she was going to run out of money, and she was such a wonderful example growing up, because she taught me to be thrifty and to take care of what we had and to save. And my dad was more of they balanced each other out well, because my father was like this maverick and a big risk taker, and my mom was like, oh, I don't know, she was really had grown up with nothing and lived during World War II, and they were starving, and so I learned so much from both of them. I mean, my mom, when she was still alive, she'd have me go to the grocery store, and she gave me coupons, and she'd say, take these coupons and use them. I said, Mom, you don't need coupons. You're doing well. And she's like, if you don't use those coupons, I'll check the receipt and I'll know you didn't use them. Don't throw them away. I'll be upset with you. So anyway, I had to go use the coupons, but she was a great lady.
Those are the principles of, that will carry you for a long time. I'm a financial coach, and those are principles we should all be exercising, no matter what our abundance is.
Yeah.
It's how we manage, be a good steward of our money, because if we can save some money, we can put it to use for someplace else.
Sure. Yeah, and they were both so generous. Even when my father was passed away, my sweet mom would, every Christmas she'd have me come up to the house and say, she'd have these little envelopes, maybe 5 to 10 envelopes with these widows' names on them and their address, and she says, go deliver these, but don't let them know who they're from. And so I'd put them on their the door and run and ring the doorbell and run and hide somewhere. And she was so giving, and my father was too. They were just so generous with, not just their money, but also their time and things like that. So, yep.
Great. We can, that's the great thing about us, is we get to know people like yourself and the stories that, there's nuggets of gold in everybody's life. And thank you for sharing that with us today. But I know we're getting here and honor your time as well. But I just wanted to, Robert Booker made the comment, who's the greatest influencer in your life besides your dad? And we talked about that before we came live. But go ahead and share.
Sure. Yeah. I was, as we talked about before, I grew up in a house with God and in my life and in our lives and faith. And my father always used to say, the money that I have been blessed with, the things I've been blessed with, are not mine. They have been given to me. They're on loan from Heavenly Father. And he said, someday I'm going to have to give an accounting to him with what I did with those things that he entrusted me with. And so, as we go through life and we are blessed, I have that same philosophy. I try to be a wise steward with the things that have been given me and that I've been blessed with, and knowing that they're not mine, they're on loan. And that those things have been entrusted to me to help other people, to see if I can use those things to bless the lives of others. And so again, I had wonderful parents who taught me, about these things, and about having a Heavenly Father in my life that that I came from there, and that I am going to be going back there again someday. If I live a good life, and if I, do the things that I know I need to do, and that I've been taught that I needed to do. But another big influence in my life was my mission president when I was 19. He was a man of faith. I mean, incredible. Him and his wife. He was an Air Force general, and one of the most organized and humble people I've ever met. And I've always kind of thought, oh, generals, they're mean. They've got to be strict and mean. But he was one of the nicest guys in the world, and was just so loving and kind. And he died when he was 89 years old, and his wife called him for breakfast. He never came. She went up, and this is the way I want to pass away. He died saying his morning prayers on his knees, kneeling down and leaning on his bed. And, again, wonderful man of faith. And I'm just so grateful for those things in my life, that I know where I came from. I know why I'm here. I know where I can go after this life is over. And that I need to help as many people as I can. Again, with my time, with friendships, not just with money, but, for those that don't have a lot of money, we can help people every day by our friendships and by serving them and being kind. And I think those are really the things that matter. When my dad used to say, when the casket's closed, no one's going to ask or worry about how much money you had, but, who you helped and what you did with the things that you had. And so those are kind of the things in a nutshell of why I do what I do, and had wonderful parents growing up, and the church I belong to is amazing. And again, we owe everything to God. I mean, we are nothing without Him. Even the very breath that we breathe every day, we receive from Him. So I'm just grateful to be alive another day, to wake up today and to see what I can do to help someone.
Well, thank you for sharing that. And Robert, thank you for your sharing. That's one of the things I coach in, is the power of gratitude, but your vision will carry you through all difficulties.
He's been here from the beginning today, and
love Robert.
Great comments. Yeah.
Thanks, Robert. Appreciate it much, and thanks for sharing out. And we'll be wrapping up here in just a minute, but just the parting thought. What do you lean into besides your faith? Anything else?
Well, like I said, we talked about the role models I had in my life, and I'm so blessed. I mean, I not just with what I have, even though I've been blessed like crazy. I mean, I was able to retire when I was 55, and I don't think I don't think it's good for a person just to stop doing things and say I'm retired. But I'll always be busy doing things. But I am just so blessed to have the life I have, and my life hasn't been easy. One thing that has been a struggle for me is I've been married 3 times, and this is something that I look at things like this and I say, okay, what do I need to do to improve myself? What can I learn from this? Not why did this happen to me? Because of course I'm partly to blame for some of that, and so I'm trying to better myself every day. I'd love to get married again, and, if I can find the right person, and if it's a good, if it's the right timing and all that. But, life is great. I am so blessed, and just grateful for, even this show, Tom, to be able to be here with you and to talk a little bit about my life, and just hopefully it can help somebody to, because we're living in a really interesting time. There's a lot of fear going on right now with COVID and with the economy and the world. I mean, we're living in some really interesting and wild, crazy times, and people need to realize that we're going to make it through this. Keep your faith and trust in God. Keep working hard. Keep your attitude going, and we're going to make it through this. We've always we've always come out of things, and I believe that, America is going to be great, continue to be great, and we're going to continue to prosper as long as we remember God and do our best and serve others. I think we're going to be just fine.
Well, thank you very much for your vulnerability, putting those final thoughts out there, because success is not defined by the ornaments that we have in life. I think you're demonstrating what success is the principles of the heart and your mind, and recognizing that the gifts that we have, and how we cherish and how we put those gifts to work. I thank you very much for sharing that with the audience today, and because that is the real definition of success, is when you can demonstrate that in life. So I appreciate your story and what you've done and coming on my program today. So,
Tom, it's been a pleasure. It's been really nice to meet you and to learn more about you. And I look forward to continuing our relationship. But wonderful day and beautiful day here in Arizona. It's going to be about 75, and just grateful for everything. Thank you for letting me be here. I appreciate it very much.
75. You're hurting me, Doug. It's like high as 7 degrees today. It was minus like 14 below with the wind chill.
Yeah, I actually threw a leg over my Harley Davidson like 2 days ago and went for about a 140-mile ride, and it was I actually got a little sunburned on my cheeks, and I was like, man, this is pretty sweet.
Yeah, well, that's my wife is born and raised in this community, and I love it here. I'm from California, so I know what good weather is about.
Yeah,
but I love the Midwest. I'm grateful for where I'm at, and the wife that brought me here. So, well, Doug, I'm going to put you in the green room. Enjoy the M&Ms. That you requested be on my program. So. And then just hang on for a minute and we'll wrap up here. So thanks, Doug.
Thank you, Tom. I do appreciate the time to be with you. Thank you so much.
Okay. Wow. That's when I say a giant of a man, we're talking about the heart. And it's obvious that, his influence of who he is comes from his family and his father and mother and his faith. And I think that, when we look at success in life, let's really take a good hard look at what success looks like. And that's staying in alignment with a power greater than ourselves. And so I appreciate Doug being on here today. G is for gratitude. I believe it's one of the most powerful words that we can incorporate in our lives, because it puts things in order and perspective, that no matter what our challenges are, be grateful for what you have, because there's learning from it. So I'm grateful to share today, Doug. And next week, G-Force, we will be back in the book, Gratitude Works. And then Monday, we're launching, Mark Gassert and we are launching Elevate Your Profits, 6 p.m. Eastern, and we'll be talking about the principles of winning in business from mindset, and we'll be bringing guests in to share with you how to be more successful in business and life. So with that all said, G-Force, we are signing